So, have you decided on your path?
Sorry, who are you?
I am White Crow. A guardian of the Abyss, and a protector of your world's cosmic order.
You're the woman from the sewer.
The kindness you showed me back then will guide you on your path. Here, take these wings. The power to soar through the open skies is yours to command. It's time to return.
You're telling me to jump?
Worry not. Those wings will see you down safely.
Now, take flight.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a little video about Crimson Desert. It's a Pearl Abyss game, and for those of you who don't know who Pearl Abyss are, I do not blame you. They made Black Desert, which is an MMO that came out some time ago, and I've played a chunk of Black Desert, and my thoughts on the MMO are... I didn't, like, I played a chunk of it, but I never really got into it. I pulled out quite early, like a good boy does, and when that happened, I decided, you know what, I might give this a try again at some point in the future. It's weird seeing action RPG combat in an MMO. It's not completely out of place. I've seen it been done before, but it's a rarity, and that's sort of what made it stand out overall when I started playing it. But anyway, the whole idea behind Crimson Desert is that it was initially meant to be a prequel. Whether or not it's a prequel now, I don't know. I'm pretty sure that the rules that they're going by are it's a standalone game and don't think too hard about the other stuff. Yeah. Because everywhere I do research for this game, it says over and over and over again, it was a planned prequel to Black Desert, which tells me that it's not a prequel to Black Desert. And you know what? After playing a big old chunk of the game, around about 25 hours at this point, I can officially say, if you're looking for a coherent world, if you're looking for any ounce of world building whatsoever, it's extremely thin. It's barely there. If they were to make another game, title it something different, and say that, oh look, it's you know, it's a surprise sequel to Crimson Desert. Here's this city. Here's this city that's been here after all these years. You know, the dust rolls over, and it's like, look, it's the city that you remember from Crimson Desert, that iconic Crimson Desert city. And I would draw a blank. You know, it's not like Baldur's Gate where you see locations from the previous games, and it's like, oh shit, cool, that's awesome that that's still there, and that's still, you know, doing its thing. This is... I don't think this game is ever going to have that traction, because, again, the world building is not great. So, immediately from the get-go, that's what immediately means. From the get-go, I sort of just rolled my eyes at a lot of what I was doing. And I know, we're 3 minutes in, and so far you're probably thinking to yourself, oh god, this guy's hating on Crimson Desert, that critically acclaimed game that loads of people are saying that is a 10 out of 10. Oh shit. Oh god, he's an awful human being. Well, just hear me out, okay? Because I haven't finished speaking yet, and this is a long-ass video. Check your timestamp, okay? If this is where you draw your conclusions, just stop watching videos altogether. So yes, I started playing this game, and the world building wasn't great. I forwent the main narrative for a very, very long time, wandering about the world in the basically in what I call my old day Bethesda-tisms. It's my Morrowind intuition. Let's say that. That's probably better than using Bethesda's name, because that might link to some modern stuff, which definitely does not fit the bill whatsoever. But back in the day when I would play Morrowind, and now when I play Morrowind, the rule of thumb was you get given your basic hints for what you're going to do for the remainder of the game, and you're given the vague direction of a town called Balmora. And from that point onwards, you just pretty much close your eyes, pick a direction, and hope for the best. That's what I did with this game, because I thought, you know what, if this game is really pushing and advertising the exploration aspect of things, and so far, you know, I have no interest in this world whatsoever, because there's not one NPC within the first few hours that drew me in. There's not a single town that I felt, you know, particularly compelled to protect. Nothing of the sorts. Nothing that particularly dragged me in terms of, once again, world building. I really want to put the emphasis on world building. Okay, not world building. There is a difference. We're going to get to that. So, I picked the direction and I started walking in it, and you know what? I had a lot of fun. I had a really good time with this game, and I still am. I'm still playing it at the moment. This is very much a first impressions video, but considering I played 25 hours of it, I figured that I would talk about it in some way, shape, or form, because this was a game that's worth talking about. So yes, I started to enjoy it. Does that mean that the world building got better? No, because what I consider to be world building is what world building is. It's writing. It's how the world is written. It's the lore behind the world. It's how towns operate. It's how NPCs interact with each other. None of that did it for me, because it's not here. It's extremely shallow. People do the basic of basic things throughout of the day-night cycle, and it's not particularly interesting to watch them go about their business. But the world itself, on the other hand, now that's where it got me hooked. The idea that behind every corner there would be I think the closest comparison I actually have in terms of its world is probably Dark Souls 2. I don't think Dark Souls 2 is a good game. It's incredibly disappointing as a follow-up to Dark Souls, and as a game by itself, it has a number of issues. But its world is entertaining to explore. Its world is entertaining to explore in the sense that when you move from one area to another, it feels like that you've shifted to another realm, and I haven't seen that mentality been done quite to the scale of Crimson Desert. Of course, with Dark Souls, the big issue is that geography fucking blends, so it's not exactly a good example of anything, really. But in terms of that, like, wild, close your eyes, like, oh, we're just gonna have a fucking dwarf fortress here, and then right next to it is going to be a school, and right on the other side is going to be a fucking desert, and over here it's going to be the Shire, and the Shire is going to be next to a really, really bad elven bandit camp that, you know, the plot puts heavy emphasis on. I have no fucking clue why the Shire is right there next to it. But anyway, that's a thing. And also, instead of it being a Shire, they are actually just children. And there's a giant tree at one point, and it's very fucking... It's like, this is the closest which I can imagine, like, taking hallucinogens would feel like. That's sort of what this game has been like for me, and that's where I've gotten a lot of my kicks. So yeah, that's been my mindset going through this game. It's been pretty much, it's how I would explore my local cities and towns on a night out. You know, a lot of people like to stay in one place, get pissed, job done. I like to have a few, and then I like to start walking. And then when I start walking, I don't know where the fuck I'm going to end up, but I like that aspect of my nights out, and that's what this game is. It's one big dusky snow night out, and it is glorious in that sense, because every 2 steps you'll see something that doesn't quite add up to what you've seen beforehand, and you probably won't get an explanation for it. So that's cool. And, well, yeah, it's a little bit batshit, and we haven't even talked about gameplay yet. So let's, I guess I'll breeze over story very briefly. That's what breeze means, Dusky, god damn it. Okay, spoiler free, here we go. You play as Jon Snow. No, that's a complete lie. That's a take that I've seen a lot of online, and it amuses me. I love those takes. I absolutely adore those takes. The kind of takes where someone just goes, you know, they see a block off in the distance, take a picture of it, and then they go, this game is basically Tetris. People have pieced together 2 very specific plot points from Game of Thrones, and they have put it on the Crimson Desert and said, it's ripping off Jon Snow's story. And you know, hearing that before I started playing it, I sat down, I loaded the game up, and I started playing it, and I can honest to God tell you, I was waiting for it, and it never came. Yeah, that was glorious. And then on top of that, the Assassin's Creed Valhalla comparisons, not here, guys. Unless you mean that it's an open-world action RPG, yeah, it plays like that, because it is that. It's a genre, you fucking idiot. It's beautiful watching that unfold constantly. Just people seeing a pixel and being like, it's not just like this game. It's like it's not just like if you squint your eyes and tilt your head and fucking gouge your eyes out. It's not just like that game. But it's a rip-off. It's a carbon copy. It has to be. It has to be. And it's very amusing just to see that over and over and over again. Anyway, sorry about that. Fun little tangent there. Let's talk about the story. The story of the Crimson Desert is... Yeah, good question. Okay, so... I am... Once again, I'm 25 hours into this game. I could not tell you what the fuck is happening in this part. Well, I mean, I could. I could tell you, like, objectively what's happening. I could tell you, like, piece by piece, right in front of me, the actions of the characters that are in the plot. I can tell you what they're doing. I can't tell you how it adds up to anything whatsoever. You start out playing as a character who's a part of the this group, this house called the Greymanes, and you don't really learn a lot about the Greymanes to begin with. The idea is that they get knocked out of action, you get knocked out of action, then you wake up in a thing called the Abyss. What is the Abyss? Well, it's a pit in an anime, and when you go down there, some very bad things happen to children. But we're not talking about that Abyss. We are talking about what I can only call techno heaven, digital heaven. It's something of the sort. And when you're up there, you quickly learn, oh shit, okay, so these are going to be, if we're going to be doing this is Assassin's Creed Valhalla / Breath of the Wild / this, that, and the other, it's the shrines from Zelda. That's what this entire space, I was meant to say sphere, but that doesn't make any fucking sense either. That's what this section of the game is. There are dungeons in the sky, and you do them to get little cubes that allow you to level up, and that's pretty gosh darn cool in my books. Big ol' thumbs up there, until you dive down into the world proper. And I think they're trying to do the Tears of the Kingdom thing, where my entire playthrough of Tears of the Kingdom's out on my channel if you want to check that out for my reaction to that game. Spoiler alert, was not a fan of Breath of the Wild. I think it has a lot of the same trappings as this game, actually. And Tears of the Kingdom was an improvement. But I did note that by the time I had nearly finished the game, I hadn't actually explored much of Hyrule on foot. I spent a lot of time in the clouds and I just found that extremely entertaining, because there was just a huge chunk of the game that was developed, and I realised, oh, I've nearly done like most things in this game, and I haven't touched the floor yet. That's a shame. Anyway, we'll get to the Breath of the Wild comparison in a bit, because I think that's, oddly enough, that's probably the most apt. That and Fable, we'll come on to that as well. Those two games, keep those games in your head, Fable and Breath of the Wild, because I think that those are going to be the key examples for this game. Not rip-offs, but comparisons. We'll get to it. So anyway, you're up in digital heaven, and you meet an elderly man. Now, the elderly man is a sorcerer, maybe, kind of, sort of, and he is talking about his big old library, where it's got books that tell you about the world. He doesn't elaborate. We're even meant to assume that it's, like, talking about the building blocks of the world, how it's made, how it functions, how it's running, all that jazz. Or they're just a load of history books. I don't know. We never find out. We'll get on to it in a bit. There's a lot to get on to. We leave... he could be a wizard. I said that. The reason why I said that is because everything floats. I have nothing else to base that on. Anyway, we leave. When we leave, we encounter a woman in white who is called the White Crow. Who is she? Very good question. Anyway, she gives you what she calls black wings, which my girlfriend lovingly called the black goo, because that's what it looks like. And then we are told, after a very quick puzzle in the sky, to jump and to quote unquote fly, which it isn't flying. It's more like whiplash. It's a slow glide. You plummet quite quickly, and the second you start the glide, you just like stop, and your stamina is reliant on, or rather gliding is reliant on stamina, and it doesn't last particularly long, so you just end up falling anyway. And it takes you a hot moment to realise, oh shit, I need to like really precisely choose when I'm going to activate this, because I'm going to be as flat as a fucking pancake otherwise. Which is what happened to me on my first dive. And I think it's what happened to a lot of people in their first dive, because they were really fucking confused with the fact that they were given wings to fly with, and they weren't flying. Anyway, so you get down on the ground, and what happens next? Well, you're gonna make a name for yourself, don't you? So you start talking to the local people. And really, at this point, the first bit of the game can be forgotten. You don't need anything like that. The reason why I said this, it's spoiler-free, and I've just spoiled the opening for you. The real spoiler here is that none of that fucking matters. All you need to know going forwards is that there's this thing called the Abyss that's in the fucking sky, and you're a part of a group called the Grey Mains that got battered. Other than that, off you go. Big ol' adventure. Fun, fun, fun. You could have just stepped out and been like, I was under the impression, because it turns out there are multiple playable characters. We'll get on to that. I was under the impression in the previews, the trailers, that, oh, we get to make our own character in this game, much like Black Desert. Nope. These are named characters with backstories, and guess what? They're not deep, so why the fuck can I make my own character? That's a subjective matter. If you're gonna make a character, though, you gotta make sure that they're well written, because I'm stuck playing that guy and seeing that guy's perspective for pretty much the whole fucking game. It's not pretty. I still don't know a thing about him. I know that he is a member of the Grey Mains, and apparently he's now the de facto leader of it, because everyone seems to talk to him as such. Don't know. He's anime main character energy. That's how I've referred to him in my head, because we're told again and again, oh, there's this insurmountable object that you need to deal with, and he just fucking does every single time. But yeah, from this point onwards, you're building up your own reputation and getting the Grey Mains back together. That is a large part of the plot. So, what about everything else? How does everything else fit into this game? Like the Abyss, for example. What is the Abyss? Why is it there? Why is there a wizard sorcerer guy? Why is there a person called the White Crow? What does any of that have to do with anything? And the long and short of it is, once again, it doesn't particularly matter, and if you listen to the dialogue, if you pay attention, and I mean if you just have the ability to listen with your ears, no nitpicking here, just use your fucking ears to listen to what they're saying, it sounds like it's been written by a 5-year-old. The dialogue is the most cornball, bullshitty, and I'm the White Crow, and I'm giving you your wings, and it's just like, whoa, okay, questions, you need to ask questions, every fucking 5 seconds I'm looking at the main character going, ask some fucking questions, because I don't know what he's familiar with in this world, he's not letting me know, that's for sure, and guess what, all the unknown stuff to him, he's not talking about, which makes it even better when you get that second main character, and you can't do anything, well, you can play as her, but you can't do anything story-wise with her for a long period of time, so you're given this new character way ahead of the time when she's actually relevant to the story, and she can do all the psychic, supernatural, going through abyss portal bullshit that the main character can do, but it's not explained for the longest time. So if you're going off doing side quests, you might be like, oh, I'm going to try playing as this new character. Oh, she's pretty cool combat-wise. I might want to stick with her for a bit. Wait, she can do all of this? What does that mean? Oh god, is she in on the know? Am I about to get some insight? Maybe let's try doing a side quest with her and see what inciting dialogue she has to say. And she doesn't talk. So she's not a character until the plot activates her to be a character. Her name is Damien, but yeah, she's not a character until the plot like defibrillates her and it's like, oh god, that's right, we introduced her like at the 5-minute mark. It's not that early. It's more like at the 1-hour mark, which isn't any better, but she becomes a playable character really fucking early, and she's like a sleeper agent to the plot. You know, she just fucking wakes up all of a sudden. It's like, oh god, yeah, I'm relevant. Oh god, I'm relevant. Hey guys, guess what? I'm relevant. So if you're playing about as her for a long period of time, she's not a character, and then you just like sit her in the tent because at least the other guy talks, and you know, it is not. Again, it's 5-year-old dialogue. I wouldn't say it's pretentious dialogue, per se. It's just bad dialogue. But, you know, it fills in the white noise occasionally. So, you get him, and you walk around, and he talks to the little people in the Hobbit village. Or he talks to the people that he's getting to make him clothes. And it's something, but you take this other person out and she's just disrespecting people, she's just staring them down, there is nothing to be said whatsoever, and it's horrible. And I don't know how this game was cobbled together, because as I'm still talking right now, I have just realised that I have to bring up the fact that there's no consistent core gameplay mechanic in this game, because they're all even. Like, you might think I'm fucking joking, but no. Fist fights, combat, in like sword combat, puzzles, fishing, rock, paper, scissors, arm wrestling, what else is there? Fucking archery, just parkour, all of it is like bundled into this mess, but it's like you take a load of different like colours of Play-Doh, and each colour of Play-Doh is a gameplay mechanic, and what they've done is they've like hard pressed them down, merged them together, and smudged it so it makes like a beige. You know, it's not several complementing colours, um, each that are like, you know, there's depth to them or something like that. It's just this really flat beige Play-Doh pancake that you've made, and you're going around thinking to yourself, "Oh God, I've just been in this epic anime fight. I've done a spot fishing. I've rowed a boat for a little bit. You know what I really want to do now? I'm going to start a farm. And after I've started the farm, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to clean some chimneys. Chimneys? I'm going to fucking clean some chimneys. And, you know, after I've done that, who knows? Who knows? And you might be saying to yourself, isn't having a lot of gameplay mechanics good? Isn't having, like, the biggest open world ever with loads of gameplay mechanics, regardless of their depth, good? No, it's not. It's like having Red Bull and shaking yourself inside a tire rolling down a hill on the fucking moon all at once. It's the most confusing batshit thing ever, because you don't know what's important to do next, other than what the main story tells you to do. So if you decide to pick a direction and go off, best of fucking luck to you, because L1 on the PS5 version is the power of insight. It's the power to learn. And when you see someone doing something, you hold that button down, and your main character, he now knows how to play jump rope. He knows how to do a jig. He knows how to kick a guy in the sky. It's insane. And again, there's no, like, consistency throughout the entire thing. You're wandering from location to location. It's like, oh, I'm going to take out this bandit camp. You go there, you kill everyone, and you kill everyone there to open up a trade route, so it leads back to your camp for camp management. So that way you can have, you know, resources coming in, so you can send off your people on missions, because that's also a mechanic in this game. Meanwhile, you have to kill some time, so you start arm wrestling, and you start picking up cats and earning their trust, and it's just fucking batshit. Like, you take a sit back and you're just like, what am I doing anymore? It's mental, it's madness, and it's kind of weird as well, because I don't think that the mechanics are bad. I think accumulatively they're bad, but individually I think that they're just serviceable. But having every mechanic in the game just to be serviceable is bad, because it means that whenever I go to do anything new, I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's give this a try. Maybe there'll be something here, and then I start doing that one particular thing, and what ends up happening is I go blind, because it's just press the button, maybe press it multiple times in a row, and he will do a thing. He will do either a combat thing or a really domestic thing, and the two just fucking crash into each other. You can't have this, like, you know, the Grey Manes are people that you've grown up with, and that your character's grown up with throughout this entire time, but that little kid over there, he wants to play hide and seek, so go and play hide and seek with that kid. In fact, you know what? This guy over here, he wants mushrooms. Go follow him. Oh wait, he's pointing to a mushroom cave. Go get the mushrooms from the mushroom cave. Okay. You've got the mushrooms from the mushroom cave? No? You got blow-darted by a child? You're in purgatory? What? You have to go and climb an ent? Again, it's batshit. Because it means that when I get to this point in the game and I tell you, what is Crimson Desert about? What is Crimson Desert as a game? And I can't give you an answer, because there isn't one. Or rather, there's 5,000. Which brings me neatly onto the topic of Breath of the Wild and Fable. Two titles which had a lot of promise, a lot of promises given to the public. And when they finally came out, you had one or two camps. And they were either the 0 out, the 1 out of 10s or the 10 out of 10s. the people that thought that Fable and Breath of the Wild lived up to their expectations with the 10 out of 10s, and people that realised that those games were actually not as fulfilling as what was promised, but overdid it and gave it a 1 out of 10. Whereas the truth lies somewhere in the middle, pushed slightly further back. It's, put it this way, it's closer to a 1 than it is a 10. That's not to say that it is a 1, but those games were really messy. That's what happened. You know, with Breath of the Wild, when you play Breath of the Wild, if you were to track someone down and say, what is Breath of the Wild about, is there any, like, deep mechanics that you can learn? What's the skill level like in Breath of the Wild? And the answer is, well, if you showed footage from the start of Breath of the Wild and to the end of Breath of the Wild, skill level wise, in terms of like what the player is, in terms of what the player has learned to do, not necessarily weapons and abilities, but what the player has learned to do. Think about it like web swinging in Spider-Man. At the start of the game, you get used to it. You're trying to figure out the ropes, and then you get more and more confident, and you could start pulling off some crazy shit towards the end, or something like Web of Shadows. In Breath of the Wild, it doesn't have that moment. You know, you learn how to parry, counter, and dodge, all within the first few minutes of the game, and that's what you're doing for the vast majority of the game. That's what you need to do to beat the game, even. And as a result, because combat is that simple, you start getting these little things that crop up all around you, which will be like, hey, you can participate in my mini-game if you want. Hey, do this little side quest. Go out there and do a spot of fishing for me. And you realise, oh god, it's all busy work. It's still just busy work. Like, none of this has depth to it. It's to distract me from the fact that there's no, like, anchor to this game. And that's what happened with Breath of the Wild to me. I like Breath of the Wild, don't get me wrong. I like Fable as well, but the same thing happened with Fable. You know, you start to realise, oh god, so many mechanics were promised to the player, but as you're going through the game, you begin to realise not one mechanic overrides another. And it's not, once again, it's not to say that they complement each other, but rather that they fucking overlap in a weird way that sort of interrupts each other. Like, the idea of settling down and having a family in Fable is really fucking weird to me, considering how urgent the plot always is. It's like the idea of this character running through, eventually reaching a city, having this mass orgy, and then leaving. It's just very amusing to me. Like, it took a year out of this Save the World quest to have a family to date someone, buy a ring, get a house, and then moves on with their lives. It just, once again, it interrupts things. But that's the point that I'm making. It's not like it's not necessarily like an urgent thing to do with the plot per se, but it's the fact that they don't connect. And none of the mechanics connect, for that matter. And the same thing applies with Breath of the Wild, and the same thing applies with Crimson Desert. Nothing works together, but they all work. You know, like the fishing mechanic is probably one of the deeper ones. And when I say deep, I mean that you hold down the trigger or a particular button to cast your fishing rod, and then once you've done that, you have to pull in the opposite way to a fish until they tired out, and then you reel them in. That's it. It's not that deep. Final Fantasy 15 did it way deeper. Final Fantasy 14 did it deeper. That being said, that's what we got. And that's one of the deepest mechanics in Crimson Desert. And they're all, like, relatively like that. You know, like, again, you get a broomstick, you can clean chimneys, you can brush the floor if you want to. There's a lot of little things that you can do in the game, and people just say, well, isn't it better to have that stuff, you know, to wander around and just interact with the world by using all these mechanics separately, and, you know, isn't it cool that it exists in the first place? And I would say, well, I would rather have one mechanic that's incredibly fleshed out than whatever the hell this is. And the gimmick of Crimson Desert is that it's the most this game that I've ever played. In the sense of, like, it's the most Breath of the Wild, it's the most Fable out of that genre. I don't know what that unfulfilled promises, I don't think that's quite it. God, it's like mixing Skittles and Smarties in a packet, shaking them up. That's the genre. It's the Scarties. Scatties. Sure, fuck it, Scatties. That's what this is. I know what that sounds like, and you know what? It's partially intentional. That's what this game is. It's just this hodgepodge of shit put out there, and then the developers just went, okay, here's a controller. It went, what? You didn't tell me anything. It's like, no, fucking go. Yeah, but you didn't, like, I need something, anything. And before anyone says, no, I'm not referring to yellow paint. You know, it's not like, oh, I need assistance with how to play this game. I don't need a line to thread me through. I need motivation. That's what I need. You know, like, when you play something like Breath of the Wild, it still has a motivating factor. You know, that challenge, that intrinsic challenge to defeat Ganon and just overcome what is supposedly one of the hardest bosses in the game. That is the player's challenge. Regardless of what happens in the game itself, that is the player's challenge. World building out of the way, ignoring Link, that is the player's challenge. And the same applies to Fable. You're doing this, you know, you're given like, oh, these are the big bads, the big villains of the game. Sometimes you see them at the start, but you generally have like a family member missing. That is your challenge. Get them back. Once you've done that, challenge completed. The player has fulfilled a goal. It's not something that the player character might want to do all the time. But the player characters in these games aren't necessarily strong. The protagonist, rather. And the same applies to Crimson Deserts. His motivation is what he's told to do a lot of the time. So it makes it incredibly easy to go off track, because I can be in his mind and say, he doesn't want to do that right now, off we go. And I know that some people are going to bring up the fact that I brought up Morrowind earlier and say, well, isn't that just a pick anywhere and go anywhere and do anything game? Well, yes, but Morrowind is designed to cope with that. You know, the idea behind Morrowind is that you're meant to get lost. You're meant to pick a direction, head in it. And when you go there, you are, like, you're using the same few consistent mechanics over the course of the game, but they get deeper the more you go, because there are, like, there are intentionally tougher enemies around the world as you go. There are areas that are meant to be more difficult than others. So you can attempt them as a challenge, but you're still, like, put off slightly. But that being said, you learn it, but Morrowind gets a pass because the world is fucking great. The world building is great. The characters are great. The story is great. It's all great, you know? But here it's like, okay, I pick a direction and I go in it, and oh wait, I haven't learned anything about this world, and the game's not teaching me anything about the world, and I'm lost, and oh god, and oh. But I'm still playing it because it's that batshit. So yeah, there we go. That's my nonsensical ramble about this game that I need to get off my chest. I'm going to make a more coherent video in the future. I'm going to script something. You're going to see something pieced together when I eventually finish this game. And the world's going to be a happier place when that happens. But I needed to just vomit into a microphone for a bit. So I hope you can forgive me. Okay, love ya.